acoustic, yo. Hey, step inside, I give thanks and the highest praise. Ground myself to my earth, connect out the space.
Well, hello and welcome to the stream. My name is Dominic Hawken, aka Mr. Wiggly. This is the Mr. Wiggly Sunday live stream at 7 o'clock on Sundays UK time, which is kind of 2 o'clock-ish in America. Stupid o'clock in the morning in Russia and Australia, I think. Actually, not Russia. Australia is like 3 in the morning. But yes, we have, I think, the ultimate guest on today. He's just so awesome. And it's pointless me going to kind of bang on a bit straight away without introducing him first, because he's just brilliant. This guy has worked with an incredible CV of people. I'm just going to run that along the bottom of the screen because I haven't got enough breath to read them all out. And this is just a few of the people that he's worked with in the industry. It is, of course, Rich Hilton. I've been training it all week. He's a friend of mine. I'm honoured to say he's a friend of mine through being on Sonic State that we both appear on. He is a founder Sonic State member that's been there for years. But I've known very little about him. I was saying I'm almost a little bit starstruck because he's worked with so many people. And I just kind of crack silly jokes and talk about MIDI and synths and geeky stuff most of the time. But I kind of said, do you want to come on? And he was like, yes, I really want to come on. I want to do the quiz. I want to talk about it. And I realised I didn't really know that much about the background other than the fact that he's worked with absolutely everybody. So, ladies and gentlemen in the chat, a warm round of applause, please, for Mr. Richard Hilton. Hello, sir. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Very happy to be here and honored to be asked.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you here, honestly. I'm really, really blown away. And the number of people who've been kind of saying, oh, this is so great, I'm really, really looking forward to this, has just been ace. So thank you so much. People in the chat, if you want to ask questions, just bang them into the chat. I'll also publish a link a bit later where if you want to come and join us, maybe after the quiz, come on live on stream to have a chat with us, then that's awesome. You can ask the questions direct. There's a few tiny little bits of housekeeping going on, but we can wait a little bit later for that. Other than the fact that I did write Rich a jingle, because we've had jingles on the previous shows. If you caught the episode number 20 with Ty and Kent Spong, that was mayhem. Nothing to do with synths really, but they both had jingles, so it was a little bit last minute. So rather than being dry, it's got lots of reverb on. But here we go. This is the Rich Hilton intro. Rich Hilton, Rich Hilton, Rich Hilton, Rich Hilton. There you go.
Wow. Oh, that's a lot to live up to, Dom.
You don't get that on any other show, I'll tell you.
No, you don't. That was brilliant. Thank you.
It's my absolute pleasure. It's my absolute pleasure. So in the chat, questions, please fire away. And we'll go into some other bits and pieces later. Obviously, Lula May's quiz is coming on very, very soon. But Rich, I mean, it's probably worth talking a little bit about kind of the history, the now and the future, I suppose, and they're kicking off with the history. Your CV of people is literally humongous. I know you play keyboards for Chic, obviously, and I know you're the right hand man, I guess, with Nile Rodgers. Is that the introduction to all of this? I mean, what kicked you into the music industry and got you working? Or were you kind of fully busy working with everyone before you moved into the Chic realm?
Well, to start from the end, then, when I met Nile Rodgers, I had more or less given up on the idea that I was going to be performing for my living. Wow. And was going teaching at a small college and going back to grad school to get a degree so I could make a little money doing it. So that was around 1987, 88, when that was all going on. And I kind of made an odd decision when I graduated college with a music degree, which was that I wasn't just going to do any old music for hire, that I needed to keep music in a special place in my life. And that at the time, given the job market and my skill set, there were any number of things I could do to make a living. And it didn't necessarily have to be tied to the performance of music, which then frees me up to do the music I'd much rather be doing than feeling like I'm toiling away at some stuff that's not worthy of the role of music in my life. And so I began to do other things around 1979, 1980, and hadn't played music as a performer for my living since college, at the point where Nile called me. I had done a whole lot of other things, most of which are related, none of which seemed quite as related at the time, but now looking back, were all related to what happened that followed. But I started playing professionally when I was 15 years old. So I had performed quite a bit by the time I graduated college.
Wow. And at college, what were you studying there?
Music. I was a piano major and a trombone minor at Ithaca College.
Oh, fantastic.
I got there in 1974, and there's a little bit of a story about how that happened. I hadn't played classical piano since I was 12, and I was trying to get into college as a trombone major, and I wasn't necessarily being that successful. I did manage to get into one place, but it wasn't really where I wanted to go. And through a series of circumstances, I ended up in a conversation with the dean of the music school at Ithaca College, and I basically talked my way in. And this is a pretty, it's not an easy school to get into, so that's kind of a very unusual circumstance. And
yeah, I can imagine.
I was given a sort of semester's probation to prove that I deserved to be there as a piano major.
Right.
And managed to go through a 4-year degree, so obviously that worked out fairly well.
Wow.
But the most benefit I had from being in Ithaca at that time was the being in Ithaca part, and not as much being in the Ithaca College School of Music, which was
right. And this
a very,
is a
highly
very classical environment. I think. Yeah,
it was. Okay. Yeah. Absolutely, it was. So all of my playing was going on downtown and at gigs, and it was pop, and it was fusion jazz was very popular at the time. So there was lots of that pseudo-Jan Hammer pitch wheel banging going on.
Was that common amongst the other people at college, or were you a bit weird for going out and playing the?
Oh, it was absolutely not common. There was not a lot of guys like me at that school, and the ones there were all still in touch.
Yeah, right.
And most of them are extremely successful. Some of them are ridiculously successful. And the town was brimming with this incredibly high level of artistic energy on every level and every discipline, including music. And the average level of the playing that was going on there was spectacular and way above anything I could do. And I was having my own go at it with my band and various bands along the way to my band, and quite enjoying myself and earning a living. Yeah, I mean, it was a day you could actually stake out some kind of a meager living performing music on a fairly regular basis. And in between that, I was DJing at one of the clubs that we played at a lot. And at the time, DJing wasn't waving your hands in the air like you just don't care. It was basically playing music for people. And I had this library from which to choose, and I learned a lot doing that. And also managed to work in some of the wacky things that I listened to as well. And so it was very bohemian and very cool in Ithaca back then. And if I rattled off a list of people, it's just remarkable the number of incredibly talented people there were in town at that time. And it was a very exciting place to be, on top of the fact that it's just one of the most physically beautiful places.
It's sometimes it's a tipping point moment, isn't it? Where you're at the right place, right time specifically, actually, where music is about to flip, or there's a new style or a new thing coming through, and also being in the right place where you've got surrounded by a lot of really talented people that can follow through. And it's a bit like being around when Microsoft kicked off, if it was in a technical sphere, or that time in music.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can be super talented and really clever, but sometimes the moment is not yours, and it's you're just in the wrong place. I feel we've been in that situation for a little while here, actually, at the moment, where where it's sort of tipping, and there's a lot of underground stuff coming through because people are just getting out and making it. And it's been a little bit kind of jaded up to now. But back then, especially, it must have been so super exciting, particularly when you've just got people talking your language, 24 hours a day, and you're just living it.
Well, to piggyback on your point, Robert Moog lived right up the street, and I saw him speak for the first time in 1975 at Cornell. And when I studied electronic music at Cornell, I worked on modular number 3. So there was a lot of seminal Moog guys around because the whole thing kind of got hatched out of his garage in Trumansburg, New York, which was a garage I could drive by on my way to Trumansburg and see Moog in the mailbox.
Wow.
And subsequently, I got to know Herb Deutsch, who was also, pardon the pun, instrumental in the development of Moog synthesizers, and with whom Bob Moog developed many of the early designs, including the Mini Moogs, the early Mini Moogs. And I got to know Herb very well, and he's a very sweet man, and we've become sort of friends. And heard a lot of retrospective stories about that place, which is where the original instruments were first hand-built.
Jeez.
Like developed and hand built.
So not only is, I mean, I guess the music was changing as a product of the technology to a degree, but what I was going to say was not only is the music changing and everything's becoming exciting, but there's all this sort of technology pushing in behind it, and they're actually feeding off of each other, I guess, at the time.
Well, the other thing about Ithaca is Cornell University is there, which is a very well-known Ivy League school, and also contains a high level of brilliance just throughout the student body and throughout the faculty. And so the whole place was this hotbed of artistic and intellectual energy amidst this gorgeous, gorgeous view. I mean, Ithaca is just a spectacular place to be. And Moog's house was on the way to this magnificent waterfall called Taganic Falls, which is one of maybe half a dozen magnificent waterfalls in the area. It's really quite a space.
Idyllic,
and,
totally idyllic.
Yeah, I still love to visit there, and I have many friends there.
Man,
my son went to school there.
Oh, and is it still a hotbed, would you say? Is it
yes.
still
yes, it was before I got there, and it's been more or less since. It not always at the same level, and at that particular point, I have to say the level was incredibly high, but even when my son Corey was going to school there and I'd go see performances, every band that hit the stage was really, really talented, including the one he was in. But and I used to get involved also with the school because he was studying with my old friends at Ithaca College. And so I would come and end up teaching classes all day and talking to the students. And a very dear friend was running the department at the time. So
amazing. It's so
continued
good.
my relationship.
Can I quickly just say hello to a few people in the chat?
Yeah.
And Mrs. Wigley is not on screen, but she's sitting behind me. Can you grab some of the questions because they're going to whiz off the top of my screen? I didn't want to interrupt Rich in full history flow with a kind of modern question. So the trouble with this chat is there's so many people here, which is brilliant. They shoot off the top, and
we can get to that.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Hello to Andrew Brooks. Hello to Mando. Thanks for coming in. Hello to Jim Glue, David Surchek, Martin Taylor, Keith in Watford, Azio Head, Steve Elbows, Will Joseph, Left. Hello, thank you for being there. Quickly, while we're talking about Left, this is the amazing Dustin Chrisman, who was a previous guest on our show. He has released a set of drums for Ableton. Let me just share my screen really quickly, that he's put together, which are operator based. So they are effectively all generated from an operator-based system. Let me click the other link. That's my one. Basically, the idea is that he has given them away for free to the Mr. Wigley stuff in return for a donation to Great Ormond Street Hospital. So That is absolutely awesome, Ian. Here is Dustin's page. I will link to it underneath this show. I'll paste it in a second. But they're really big, boomy kick drums and snare drums made entirely from operators, and they sound really, really, really good. I can just hit play. I think you'll be able to hear a little bit of it. Don't know if you get what. So they are all operator based. There's no samples. There's no latency. They use not much processor power and all the rest of it. So they are available on mrwigley.co.uk /op drums, OP drums, which I will paste now. That'll also be available if you go to the homepage and underneath this video. It's basically download them, try them out, and donate whatever you like to the link that is on the Mr. Wiggly page, which is Great Ormond Street Children's Hospital, which is a great cause. And Lula May has raised for Great Ormond Street £237 so far, which is incredible. And that's through the quiz and through donations, through a very, very lovely donation from Ty as well, who was amazing and kicked this whole thing off. And so, I mean, you don't have to download the drums, to be honest. You could just go and donate, which would be absolutely epic. But that's just reminded me about that. So that is left in the chat. So big him up for that. It's a really... There he is there. A really, really nice thing for him to do. And Inky's in the chat as well. She is moderating, keeping everyone in line. So many thanks to Inky for being there. Be nice to her as always. All of our chatters are really nice, to be honest, but she will kick you out if you're not. And there was a question from Wagyu. We have actually just been inaugurated as YouTube partners as of the 22nd show, I think, which is amazing. So that allows us to post links and for people to send us money, which is incredible, which really we should pass on through to charity or whatever. But thank you, Wagyu, for your comment, which was, what's Rich's favourite scene in the film Blade Runner? Which is worth £5. I mean, thank you, Wagyu. That is such a lovely thing to have done. Thank you. Over to you, Rich.
I've never seen Blade Runner.
Is that why he's asking?
All the way through, and he knew that, yeah.
Private joke. Wow.
Well, I'm somewhat famous in the chat room for Sonic Talk as having gone on record with my
got you
relative disinterest in that Frank Ellis fellow.
That was definitely worth £5, I've got to say.
Yeah,
Mrs. Wiggly,
good
is there anything? 3 questions. Martin Taylor.
Okay, Martin.
Any good Bowie tales? That could come a bit later. Give us a quick one. People's going to talk about that later, but carry on.
Well, every day was an adventure. I mean, the Bowie talk is not a one question answer, but every day was an adventure. He's one of the most creatively interesting and unpredictable people I've ever known. And he envisioned himself more in the mold of a European painter than as a pop musician, as he worked, and used the ethos that he believed came with that sort of self-designation to drive his creative process. He is a painter. He was a painter. May he rest in peace. He was a painter, so it makes sense, kind of, from that perspective too.
I mean, it is incredible because one of the reasons that I held you in such high regard from afar is because behind you in the studio is a Black Tie White Noise disc.
Right over there. Yeah.
And a Black Tie White Noise is a Bowie album. It was a 94, I think it was made out. 95.
It was made in 92. It probably came out in 93.
Yeah. Okay.
92.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah. And it's not famous like one that many people particularly talk about. It's a fantastic album, and there is one tune on there which was the lead single that came off of it, which was massive. It was called Jump, they say, and it's one of my all-time favorite Bowie songs. And strangely, around about the time that was in the charts, I was working with the band that I had most success with, which was E17, and we were writing an album in just over 2 weeks. We literally had 2 weeks to do all the writing and demoing, so we were doing a song a day. And throughout the course of that thing, I would play Jump, they say, every time I possibly could, on the kind of pretext that I was checking the mix against the monitors, and I was using it as a sort of monitoring, balancy kind of, rest of my ears kind of thing. But it did work very well as that. But all I wanted to do was listen to it. And very occasionally a song comes along, and you just cannot stop listening to this thing, and it's just absolutely brilliant. And even there's a few ones, Bowie particularly, but there's a few songs where no matter how much you listen to them, you still can't quite work out what's going on. And and you're like, it's brilliant. There's a few Talking Heads tunes like that as well, which is like, what is that actually playing on? What is that word there? Or how is that rhythm working? And I think it's just absolutely superb. And to know that you were working on that album and that tune, I mean, I had a question, but obviously, which was, how was that made? I mean, did a lot of that come together in the studio, or was it fairly mapped out? I'd say my impression would be it was kind of roughed out with the band, played solidly, and then a lot of magic happened after that in the studio. That would be my guess.
So the scene is set at the Broadway Hit Factory on 54th Street, right around the corner from the Ed Sullivan Theater where David Letterman used to broadcast. And first day in the studio, the day I'm going to meet David Bowie, a man who I've admired since I was 13, 14 years old, sitting in the back of somebody else's car listening to Hunky Dory. And the conversation between him and Niall is very spirited because they had previously made Let's Dance together and they had a deep relationship. And so they were very happy to see each other, and it was all very good vibey. And David couldn't wait to play us this song he wanted to start with, which he had demoed in Switzerland at the studio he liked to work at in Switzerland, because he had residences in Switzerland as well as in the United States. And there was all kinds of rules involving how many months he could spend in the United States before he became a resident, in which case his tax status changed. So he was constantly going back and forth between. And he puts in this, I believe it was a cassette at the time, and it's the demo for Jump, They Say. And I'm sitting there going, oh my God, how am I going to get that? Like he's playing this demo full of sounds I can't fathom, much as like Nate, sort of the basis for your question. And
that's the demo, right?
and it's like, and I'm looking at the synclavier going, how am I going to make that happen? Well, it turns out that almost all of that very, very bizarre sounding material is backwards stuff from a multi-track tape, 2-inch tape that he had with him, and he knew where all of them were.
Oh,
all of them. And I sat there at the synclavier and sampled everything that he needed to make that track, and built the track in the synclavier. This was day one of working with David Bowie. It was that song, which, by the way, makes reference to, if not is inspired by, I believe, the death of his brother, who I believe committed suicide. Yeah. So I believe the Jump, They Say song is inspired by that relationship and that situation. And that's how it all began.
Wow, that is incredible. I didn't realize that you'd put it all together. And these multi-tracks were another tune or something that he'd been created on the demo and was reversing and playing around with them, or he just...
It was work he had done in Switzerland. I don't know if I ever heard it. I'm not sure I ever heard it played forwards.
I just wondered if he pulled out an old master track and said, oh, well, this sounds like hey, we've got something here. How funny.
Well, I don't know what the source was, but it had to have been original material.
Right.
Because it's his sax playing backwards that you're hearing doing that sort of whiny sax thing.
Finally.
So it's a lot of backwards material is the basis of the overall texture. And then there's plenty of rhythm track basics that take place over it that go obviously forwards in time.
That makes complete sense, because it has this.
It's a combination of forwards and backwards material.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, thank you for saying that. I'm now going to listen to it in a new light. Amazing, absolutely amazing. So to answer the original question, and thank you very, very much, Andrew Brooks, for the £5. That's really, really appreciated. Thank you. It was pretty much mapped out in the demo, so it was production rather than arrangement going on.
He knew. On that one, he walked in. Actually, mostly, he walked in with a very clear picture of what he wanted.
Gosh.
And you would set out to achieve that, and he would constantly be changing it. And that's just his painterly way of interacting with music. He's always dabbing at things and pulling. Wow. One day I walked in, there's a song that starts the thing. Well, I think the wedding song starts it, but there's a song called You've Been Around. And there was a whole played full basic track, and it was rocking. And I walk in one day and he looks like a kid who just, ate all the cookies. And he was like, you got to hear this. You got to hear this. I've changed the beginning. You've got to hear this. And he replaced like all of it with some JD800 pad that he had written, and basically just kind of like plays a sort of a almost drone. It would almost relate to the way drones pertain to Indian music and the way this thing related to this particular song.
Sure.
And that's what's there. I mean, and you would hear this synthesizer come up, and then the vocals come in with the vocoder in the background that we did. And it was like he would change. It was every day was a new dawn on some things.
Amazing. Just like a live wire, constantly just pushing stuff in there. That's just incredible. Well, you've kind of revolutionized my thinking about that tune now in terms of going back to listen to it again, because it makes a lot more sense the way that sounds. I mean, what can I say? We're being flooded with. You really don't need to send money. It's absolutely beautiful of you, David Surchek and Robert Fat Dust Hex. It's really, really kind. But there really is no need. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's really, really lovely. And obviously, if you have any questions as well as wanting to send money, then that's even better. So please just tell us. Can we have another one, Mrs. Wigley? Shout it out loud, please. David Surchek did have one. What inspires you as an artist? That's a now question as well. It inspires rather than previously.
A lot of times it's interaction. I'm a little, and then sometimes I just wake up with a melody and decide to write to it, but that doesn't happen that often. Usually I'm either task oriented, where I have something to achieve, and through the experience of achieving that, I will end up creating a piece of music. For example, every time I meet a new DAW software that I want to try out, I write a piece of music on it, because then I'll explore it deeply, and it won't be driven by an artist's needs. It'll be driven by my own wish to create a piece of music. So I tend to be very sort of task oriented, but also as a collaborator, I'm very inspired by what other talented people show me, that I then go off into another direction on myself. So I think, like life, in music and in art, I'm inspired by my interaction with the world and with people. Is that too vague? I'm sorry if it is, but that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Completely relate. No, absolutely. And the wonderful Synth Addict. Thank you for all the questions, people. It's marvellous. And again, thanks for the $5. As a fellow Roly fan, I'd love to find a link of Rich's Roly Noodlings. And also, how are you getting on with the Osmos? Oh, are you getting an Osmos? Sorry.
Okay. There aren't any links to me noodling on a Roly, although there is a... I've played it on stage exactly once. I spent years practicing on this thing before I'd play it for anybody, and I'm still occasionally like a beginning violin student when I play it. But little background: Nile Rodgers, the guy with whom I work in Chic, has a foundation called the We Are Family Foundation. Every year, the We Are Family Foundation hosts a gala event that features various people who they want to honor as notable people involving the concerns that the foundation is directed towards. And you can find them at wearefamilyfoundation.org, I believe it is. One year recently, we had as our guest Dolly Parton, which was a tremendous thrill for me, by the way. And there needed to be fiddle parts, and we didn't have a section of fiddle players. And I managed to practice up some fiddly parts on the Roly Seaboard, and there are probably videos of us performing that on which I play Roly, and that's as close as I've got to me noodling on a Roly. I play it every single day. It's you don't hear it right now, but I do. Okay. I'm constantly messing with it, and my pitch has gotten a lot better, and I'm actually, it doesn't sound quite as much like a
They're amazing, amazing things. I mean, I've never played one, and the idea of kind of a lateral playing, I'm similar to you, not in your league, but, you know, a classically trained pianist, and I can do the theory and my fingers do the right things, but the left to right kind of is will take it. It's a new instrument, isn't it? It'll clearly
Yeah,
take
piano
a while to get used
technique
to.
only gets you maybe halfway there. And when I'm playing it, especially when I'm playing melody on it, I'm thinking much more like the trombonist I used to be in college than I'm thinking like the pianist that I try to be now. Because I don't often use straight up piano, two-hand piano technique on the thing. I'm much more, I tend to play it with one hand a lot. And
Right.
quite often I like playing melody on it in particular, but I do play chordal things, and I did for the Dolly thing and for various other things, for records or whatever that I've produced that I do. So it's wonderful. I have issues with some of the hardware stuff in the company, but that's neither here nor there, because I do love playing it.
It's the principle, though, and it seems to be a very good method of enabling that that controlling,
As for the
stuff.
Osmos part of your question, I've never played one. My first experience with a keyboard that did something like this was when I was working as a keyboard salesman in 1977, and we had a Yamaha SY2 on the sales floor. And I realized that when I grab a note and go like that, it plays vibrato. And I thought that was remarkably cool at the time for a hardware piece of equipment. It was a monophonic synthesizer, and you could wiggle a key and get vibrato. And I still love being able to do that because it's the speed that I want it to be. It's not some predestined LFO to
Gotcha. Yes, of course.
So that was my first experience with being able to do that. That said, I was very skeptical about the Seaboard when I first met it, and it took me a while to get. I basically had to meet Marco Parisi, who if you've never seen play a Seaboard, you must.
No.
And I met him. And I saw that, and I said, I got to have that, and I got to learn how to do that. And I'm still half the, Seaboard player he is.
Yeah.
But Osmos, I don't know how it's going to feel. It looks like it's going to feel really spongy and weird to me. I'm not that excited about having that under polyphonic arrangement of real keys. However, I am prepared to be wrong about that, and I look forward to the moment when I do get to play it to see if it plays out like I think it will.
Right.
And I'd really like to see them actually sell one, because they've been talking about it now for God knows how many years. And it feels like vaporware to me. And I do hear that somebody's got one, or one or two testers have received them, or God knows what. But I just, because of the experience with what's happening with Rolly, I wonder whether or not this thing is ever really going to come to market in any meaningful way.
We don't want the whole MPE world to be tarred with that same kind of brush. Yeah, that makes complete sense. Thank you, Sasquatch, for your wonderful donation. The guys in the chat, honestly, this is just spectacular. All this cash will go straight to the charity today, so it's just absolutely wonderful of you. Dusty River Hospital Fund, thank you very much indeed. What was the weird stuff Rich was listening to that he mentioned whilst you were DJing way back in the day?
I go deep with jazz stuff, first of all, and every possible iteration of Miles Davis up into the 80s, Coltrane, all of that sort of semi-traditional stuff. At the same time, Weather Report, Mahavishnu Orchestra. At the same time, British, what is now known as prog music. Gentle Giant is one of my favorite musics of all time. And I was trying to transcribe it and play it, and I was all into that. Some more esoteric English, quote unquote, I wasn't called prog back then, but whatever it was called, classic rock, I don't know, classical rock, Henry Cow, Magma. I was a gong, quite a bit of gong. I was a sponge for all of this stuff. Tangerine Dream, I saw Tangerine Dream perform in the late 70s. They were fantastic. All of this seeped in and had an influence on me as a player and as a musician, and that's might go a little bit of the way towards explaining the song I did for the Sonic State recording.
Got you. Yeah, Sonic
because
1.
that derives more from my interest in those kinds of things than it does from being the keyboard player in Chic.
Right. We'll come to that then in a second. We have our wonderful Lula May has arrived. Let's get this camera pointing at you.
Hi, Lula May.
Hi.
Nice to see you again.
just while we're there, Dr. Synth, thank you for the $5 straight to Great Ormond Street Children's Hospital. Thank you very, very much indeed. David Serchek as well. Robert Fatdas Hetch as well. I mean, this is just incredible. Thank you, guys. Amazing. Hi to Adam in the chart. Hi to Failed Muso. Right, we need to pause just for a second so that we can get some quiz in. Because it's kind of going to be an early bedtime with the school day going on today. So yeah, let's get some of that going. Are you ready? It's quite a few questions and bits and pieces going on. So I think you're aware of the quiz, Rich. So probably don't need to.
I did this question.
Yeah, you're going to do that question first. Okie doke. However, anyone in the chat wants to play along, you need to be telepathic, basically. There are no particular wrong answers. It is just for fun. Some people are going to take it quite seriously, I think. You need the chat to be set to all comments or something like that, not top comments. Otherwise, you won't see everybody's answers. And do bear in mind that people in the chat see things at different delays. So you may think you've answered the question before someone else, but it may appear in a different order up here. And really, it is just for fun. YouTube is not a way of running an Olympic quiz, but it is a good way of having a lot of fun. So, right, if everybody is
just one
ready,
question.
Yeah, go for it.
So Lula May is going to ask a question. Am I then to let it germinate in the public for a minute before I respond?
No. You've got to try and get in there before the chat. I reckon you've got about a 10 to 15 second lag on the chat normally, an advantage on everybody else. So you can jump straight in there.
Okay, very good.
So yeah, go for it. And then there's the people in the chat that then we tried to make non-Googleable questions now because people were Googling them. And we also have people that kind of hear the answer and then quickly type it in as if they got there right at the end. It's also cheating. So, all right. Okay, here we go. Stand by.
What colour are my new glasses?
Red.
Nope. You can have another guess though.
Pink.
Nope. Kent Spong, thank you so much for your donation, man. That's so blessed. Thank you very much.
What color are your new glasses? I haven't seen them.
Oh, Kent Spong close, did you say? Kent Spong may be close here. Just trying to find. And thank you, Lan Slum. Yeah, Lan, thank you so much for your donation as well from Stockholm.
We'll come back to that question.
Yeah, we need to know about MIDI controllers, so we'll come back to that. Thank you. Anyone yet, Mrs. Wigley? Kent Spong was close, apparently. Oh, we really not got it? Okay. I mean, it's a particular shade of a common colour, which we were going to ask for, but I don't think anyone's got the common colour yet. Wow.
I've seen a lot of colours go by.
Yeah, I'm amazed. There's a oh, does that one count, Mrs. Wigley? No. Okay, so Sasquatch has got blue. Oh, so Ken
I got it!
Oh, where is that? Yes! Adamski A. Adam, well done indeed. Okay, so now we get to see in full effect. Whoops, let's lose them.
Wow. Very nice.
Well done, Adam. And very lovely they look too. Very, very lovely. Yes. Oh, fantastic. Rich is serenading you. Which one are you going to go for next, Luna May? Well done. Well done. So that's a point for Adamski, please.
How big is my head?
Ah, all right. So this is around...
Mummy measured it.
Either in
Are we
centimetres or
talking
inches.
circumference?
Yeah, we're talking around...
Circumference.
Yeah.
around the top, around the crown.
Where did she do it? Around here?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so it's around there. I don't actually know the answer, so you'll have to shout loud, Mrs. Wiggly. 24 inches. You're going to go for it, Rich?
I'm going to say 28 inches.
28 inches from Rich? No. Another guess? It's all quiet.
Does your head change size as you grow?
I think it gets bigger as you grow. I don't think it gets smaller.
No, it doesn't get smaller for sure, but I don't know if it actually changes that much. Certainly, they say the distance between your eyes doesn't change.
Oh.
Someone said 30 millimeters.
Someone's got 21. Who's that?
Oh,
I can
there.
see inverted popes. Well done. Not the Lula May. We want this one. Well done, well done. Now then, okay, so let's kick off. Which question have you got? Have you got them? Gonna do that one?
Yeah.
All right.
I'll
So,
do them in order.
okay, so this one, let's clear out that comment for a second. Well done, Inverted Popes. Now, there's a little bit of a story behind this. Mando, who was on the show a couple of weeks back, works with Lego a lot, and he was amazing. He amazingly sent Lula May this amazing Lego. So thank you to you, Mando. And I've just got this little video of the whole thing getting opened up. Oh, this looks amazing, Mando. Thank you so much. This looks... Oh, my word.
I saw this before and I really liked it.
What do you say?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mando. This is...
Look at this giant big set of Lego. It's all in bags.
amazing, Mando. Such a...
Can I build this now?
Of course you can. Such an amazing thing to do. Oh, wow. This is incredible. That looks amazing. We'll make a film of what we've built, but thank you so, so much. Can you say thank you to everyone watching? And thank you, Mando. It's really, really touching and very, very much appreciated. We're lost in Lego. See you soon. Take care. Bye.
How do you build it, Daddy?
Awesome, thank you. Thank you so much, Mando. I wanted to say thank you too to Suzanne Aston, who was on one of the very early shows, who also sent Lula May a ringtail possum, not a real one, a nice cuddly one. And Andrew Brooks, who we mentioned last week, for the Pudsey Bear and the Unicorn. Honestly, it's like Lula May's birthday every day around here, and it's so much appreciated. So the reason for showing that, as well as to say thank you very, very much indeed, was because it's related to this question here. So do you want to go for this new question? I should kind of give you this, build it up with this.
What prompted the horse?
Hey, I don't know.
All right.
All right, go for it, Lily.
How many Lego bricks are in the bag that Mando sent?
Wow.
Let's bring it. Yeah, can you see it? Yeah, there is a lot.
You turn it around so I can do it.
Pop it round that way and see if it's in there. There you go. Shall I hold it in front of mine as well? Because I think my camera might show a bit more.
137.
Nope. But you can have another couple of guesses whilst... Is it higher or lower, Mrs. Wiggly? 137 was the guess. Higher.
Ah. Okay. No, I'll let the chat room have at it.
Okay, Mrs. Wiggly will be monitoring. I found some quiz music. Here we go. That'll do. Actually, that's not very quizzy. I can't hear a thing. Maybe Rich can entertain us with a bit of quiz music. How are we doing, Mrs. Wiggly? No one's got it yet. Is it higher than 500? No. It's lower than 500. Is it higher than 400? Yeah. Okay, so it's between 400 and 500. Anyone gets it within 10 will win. Awesome. So we know it's between 400 and 500, and whoever gets within 10 is going to win this.
4 and 500. Wow.
So we got 446. You close there, Mrs. Wiggly? I've got Mrs. Wiggly maths alert now.
It's funny, Steve.
Who's in it?
No one's got it yet.
Within 10?
Oh, synthetic, I think.
Synthetics 475.
Kent Spong. Look how
Kent
much
Spong's valiant attempt. You got to give it to Sasquatch. All right, Sasquatch gets it. My word, synthetics. I'm sorry, I can't. I'll have to scroll back and find the Sasquatch one.
That's what says 480.
480.
And there's 482.
It was the actual one was 482. Synthetic was he was within 10 first. To be fair, and Sasquatch, give them a point each. Point to Synthetic. Point to Sasquatch. Good work, people. For those that are late to the party, because not everyone joins in, this is the Rich Hilton jingle.
Rich Hilton, Rich Hilton, Rich Hilton, Rich Hilton.
Fabulous.
What film did I just watch? Put the chat on.
Not No Time to Die. Oh,
Frozen 3. I don't think that's a thing yet.
no, go for it, Rich.
Jungle Book?
No, good guess. Good guess. Mrs. Wiggly, Adamski saying Ray Malone guessed it with 482 spot on, so we better write him down as a winner too.
Inky the cat says she's got it right as well.
Inky says he's got it right. Sorry to rewind there. But thanks, Adam. What have we got? Cinderella.
Yes, Blade Runner. That's funny. Way to go, Babs.
Transylvania, no. 6500. Harry Potter, no. I tell you what, I was surprised. Lula May wanted to watch it. It's an old. It's not an old film. It's not a present film. It's a classic, I'd say. And yeah, it's more. It's not my thing.
It's 3 hours.
It's 3 hours long. It's hard without giving it away. Yeah, give it a little bit more just in case anyone.
3 hours.
It's a big one.
It's a Lord of the Rings movie?
No. Oh, sorry.
I deserve
work
that.
Someone got it!
Oh, Lady Aptitude. My word, well
What did
done.
she say?
Titanic.
Ah,
I don't believe that. Lady Aptitude, well done. I caught you watching Pro Synth Network on Friday, and everyone should watch Pro Synth Network on Friday with the gang. And thank you very much for popping over here and watching us too. But yeah, big up Pro Synth Network. They are an amazing stream. And Lady Aptitude, you are indeed king of the world. We have at least a couple more questions, I think.
No, we have this to this.
Yeah, there's some backups there.
Oh.
So let's get ready to rumble.
What's my favourite type of cake?
well, I would have to go with chocolate as a first guess. No. Wow.
I don't like chocolate that much.
Ah,
No, it's very strange,
I like
isn't it?
chocolate cake, but I don't. It's not exactly my favourite.
Yeah,
that's
fair
not the
enough.
one. Okay.
Ba-ba.
Well, I think that
Hello,
includes-
Ty. Thank you very much for joining. Good to see you.
Hi, Ty.
Luna May hates all cakes. I don't think so. Ice cream cake, strawberry cake, carrot cake. Have another go, Rich.
I've never tried ice cream.
It's a sort of grown-up-ish kind of cake. Wouldn't normally associate it with children. I don't know that put you off, but
White chocolate
There are grown-up
cheesecake.
cakes.
Ty will get it. He's just
My
arrived.
wife,
He'll
my wife has a guess.
go for it.
Funfetti cake.
Funfetti cake? No, I'm afraid.
I've
not.
heard of that before.
Is that US? I don't know if it's a
She'd be
UK
much better
thing.
at this than me.
No, it is. It's just it's a cake batter that you can put in and cook it from that. So
Oh,
you don't have to make
nice.
it from scratch.
Nice. I like that. I like that a lot.
Sounds about right.
My favourite, to be fair, is an Eccles cake. An orange cake? No.
Strawberry shortcake.
It's a common cake. It's got to be said. I mean, volcano cakes, pancakes, sponge cakes. I mean, it is a sponge. It's a sponge-based thing, but a lot of cakes are. So it's the flavour of the sponge. Welsh, yeah. Anyone that missed Inky the cat on her show, Inky is effectively the Princess of Wales because her father is King of Wales. Quite incredible. And we made Welsh cakes. Lemon drizzle, no.
Angel food cake.
Not going to get it. Okay, 5,
Brussels sprouts cake.
4, 3, 2, 1. What was it?
A ginger cake.
Oops,
That
that's
is a
simple.
grown-up cake. See?
Yeah, it is, isn't it? But yeah, it's a good cake. All right. So while you're here, Luna May, because I think there's
There's two.
more questions
Yeah.
left. Yeah. Okay. All right. Because you've got a big question as well for Rich. So let's do the penultimate one from down there. Let me find the important button. Go for it.
What's the best kind of tree?
Christmas tree.
Oh! I really didn't think anyone was going to get that. Fantastic. Congratulations. Big point to Rich Hilton. And an extra point for being able to play the music in the background as well. Well done, Kent, as well. I'm hoping Kent said that before. Failed musicist Braintree, which is a place in the UK. Oh, very, very good.
Also
Right, we
in
have.
Massachusetts.
One more question.
There's one more quiz question, but whilst you're here, you have a big question, which is here. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah.
So, which is a serious question, but given the seriousness of being able to talk to Rich about life and the universe and everything. So, it's Lula May's big question.
I am learning piano. Do you have any advice for me?
Yes, I do. Forgive yourself for taking a long time to get good at it because it's hard and everybody struggles in the beginning. So give yourself plenty of time, be patient with yourself, and expect it to take a while to get to the result you want. Don't be impatient. Is that good advice?
Very, very good advice.
Does that work?
Yeah.
Forgive yourself.
Fantastic.
Forgive yourself for taking a while because, just like when I started on this thing right here, it's going to take a while. Just it has to. It's two things. It's in here and it's in these. And this is like an athlete, and this is like the person who's thinking and controlling the athlete, and it takes a while.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. That is very,
Thank you
very
for the
good advice.
question.
There's also Mrs. Wiggly. She wanted to get into the act. Mrs. Wiggly is backstage, sitting behind me. I don't know if she stands up, you might
What
be
an
able
honor.
to wave. She doesn't have a mic over there, so I might have to ask it on her behalf. But Mrs. Wiggly. I've got to ask on your behalf? Okay. How have you ever been starstruck by any of the amazing people you have worked with?
I am starstruck by pretty much all of the amazing people I've worked with. However, you try desperately not to let it show. Of course I am, because I admire them for being so open with us about their gifts. And so when you get to be around somebody who's special like that, it's hard not to notice. At the same time, most famous people I find, not that I know most famous people, but most famous people that I have found, strive to be as normal as much as possible in their lives, because there's plenty of other people already kissing up to them. So
Right.
I find that by treating people with respect normally, it cuts through my own starstruckedness and gets me to a good relationship with the artist fairly quickly.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, you have. I'll run this banner again. You've worked with so many people. Again, there wasn't so many people at the beginning as there is now. These are kind of some of the people that Rich Hilton has worked with, which we'll come back to after the quiz. There's one more question to go. Thank you for that. I guess everyone is a real person, right? So Thank you from Mrs. Wiggly in the background. Next week we're going to get you a mic,
Mrs. W.
and then you'll be able to go. Okay, so we have the last question.
Wait, should I do this one as well?
I would do that one as the last question.
Okay.
Those were only backups in case anyone failed. So, all right, here we go. I'll cue you in again. Stand by. Go.
Where do you find a turtle with no legs?
Where do you find a turtle with no legs?
And that's it.
Stuck in the sand.
A good answer. It's not the answer on the card. Come on, Ty, you can do this. Unfortunately, Ty is our resident expert. He is telepathic, but he didn't get here in time to catch the first question, so I don't think it very good, fail music.
It's not.
Very, very good. Very, very good, Phil Muso. Live on Fridays on YouTube, on the ProSynth Network YouTube channel. Go and subscribe and watch it. And this is why he runs that thing. I mean, what a guy. Very, very well done. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the quiz. So a big round of applause, please, for the wonderful Lula May. Oh, Ty got it first. Wait a minute. Don't tell me Ty's pulled it back. Did Ty get in there first, Mrs. Wiggly?
I saw it. They go down.
Okay. Oh my goodness, the same place you left it. And he's won in before failed music. He's done it. Oh my gosh. Ty's pulled it back. He still gets a point. And he only was here for 2 questions. That's unbelievable. Thank you, Ty. So a big round of applause for Ty as well. Ty Unwin, Ty Unwin, Ty Unwin, Ty Unwin, Ty Unwin. There, you get that for your point instead. Brilliant. Okay, we're going to say goodbye to the wonderful Lula May, who is heading off right now because it's a school night, I'm afraid. Thank you. And Mrs. Wiggly's in the back waving because she's going to take it away.
Hello and goodbye.
Hello and goodbye. Not sure if that's coming through the mics. Adam Adamski is correct. Miss Taiwan is from the future and would get the questions right. Ty's laughing. Thanks ever so much. Did a really good job. Okay, let me just check this little list in case I need to big up anyone that I have forgotten. Lula May actually won School Counsellor this week, which I forgot to mention before the quiz, which is a big deal. You had to do a big poster. And so you're in charge of kind of connecting the children in the class to the teacher. So, yeah, well done. Well done. Right. Let me just check. Yeah, I think we've done pretty much everything. So we can come back onto the stuff that we were talking about before. Obviously, there's Lady Aptitude's question to mention. What I kind of wanted to do was to connect the dots between the college and university style life that you were talking about, and you're obviously kind of having an amazing time right on the forefront working with some amazing people, and then there's a leap between there and emerging a chic keyboard player, and presumably quite a big leap is involved there. So I wondered if you wanted to give us a quick kind of resume of that. And also, you don't have to answer my questions. If there's anything you want particularly to talk about, just do, and we'll take some questions from the chat.
I'm good with the way we're going so far. I don't have any specific agenda here.
Okay.
The part between where I left off when I graduated college and the time I met Nile Rodgers, which was approximately 10 years, was a very productive, but perhaps not as interesting a period. But the first thing that happened was I moved to Boston and I started working in hi-fi retail, where I was dealing in home entertainment products, and I was working ultimately in Harvard Square, where we would have customers ranging from MIT professors to street people and everything in between. And I spent a few years in Cambridge, Mass, and living in Somerville, working in hi-fi retail. At the same time, I was doing odd studio work as a keyboardist, and I was doing some recording jobs with a friend of mine that I worked with, where we would go to various spaces like churches and such and record classical and jazz ensembles. So I was expanding my interest in recording technologies. I was learning the ropes with home entertainment equipment and improving my audio understanding. And basically just working like a young person trying to figure out what's next. And then I moved back to New York, and after a brief few months of stumbling around figuring out what to do, I ended up at one of the biggest recording studios on Long Island, which was called Kingdom Sound Studios. And we did major artists and clients. And from day one, I was working with people I dreamed of getting to know, and including such luminaries as Eddie Jobson, who a few people here probably know because of his synthesizer associations, the Ramones, on whose record I played briefly, and Joan Jett, who was in the studio working on the follow-up to the I Love Rock and Roll album, which she had recorded there the previous year. There were other artists that came through there, Rainbow, Blue Oyster Cult. I worked with Tiny Tim there. I worked with Stephen Van Zandt, Gary U.S. Bonds. It was a pretty constant parade of A-level recording artists coming through. And through a set of circumstances that are probably not that interesting to anybody but me, in a period of 9 months, I went from unpaid assistant to the director of the studio and the chief engineer.
Oh, wow.
And it was through a series of circumstances that nobody could have predicted. But in the end, the remaining owner of the studio was left with only one person who knew how the whole place worked, and that was me. And that's how I became the big cheese at age 26 in a major recording studio and running the place. Wow. And that lasted for about 6 months until he ran out of money, and then I had to go after him for the money. And I went back into retail, and I did some more home entertainment, and eventually ended up doing audio service on electronics and tape machines. I had become very good with tape machines at the studio. So I was helping people with their tape machines, and I was also installing home theaters into rich people's homes and into other kinds of public facilities on behalf of a high-end retailer on Long Island, which is where I was living. That went until I got the job teaching at the small college that I mentioned earlier, which is where I met my lovely wife, by the way.
Oh, fantastic. Congratulations.
College in a different capacity. And I was teaching audio recording and electronic music in MIDI, and they had, some gear, and I was working very closely with my students, and I was kind of motivated to continue to do that. Excuse me. While that was going on, I was trying to get a job with New England Digital, who made the Synclavier, and I would apply for jobs with them, and I did, I think, something like 11 interviews across 18 months for 3 or 4 different jobs in 3 or 4 different states, and they never did hire me. But at some point in March of 1988, when Nile Rodgers called them and said, I need a guy who plays keyboards who can operate this thing, they gave him my name.
Oh, serendipity. Wow, that is just
So
brilliant.
One day
Brilliant.
my phone rang, and I picked it up, and it was an English gentleman named Kevin Jones, who's the brother of Mick Jones, a foreigner, who was working with Nile at the time. And he said, hi, I'm Kevin Jones, and I'm calling from Nile Rodgers Productions. And I thought, which one of my friends is smart enough to do this to me? I literally didn't believe it at first. I didn't hang up, but I didn't believe it at first. And it was pretty soon that I realized that this was a giant fork in the road of my life, that this phone call could take me down a completely different avenue than the one I thought I had arrived at and was moving down.
Yeah.
And so I went and I had an interview with Kevin Jones, and I played him the stuff. So when the recording studio dissolved and the guy who knew what he was doing walked out the door, and the guy who sort of didn't was left to rely on me to run the place, the guy who left and I began producing music out of a basement studio in Flushing, New York, that we built around a Studer multi-track machine, an Ampex 2-track machine, a Soundcraft console, and various synthesizers that he bought on my recommendation for me to operate. And those were Memory Moog, Lindrum, Dr. Click, Moog Source, and then very soon after we started buying those things, DX7s and Emulator 2s and things like that started showing up. So that's the music that I produced between 1983 and 1985 in the studio, in the basement of this guy's house, who had been the former owner of Kingdom Sound Studios, and who was my mentor as an engineer at the time. Those songs are what I brought to play for Kevin Jones, and he was very impressed and asked me to come back the following week and meet Nile Rodgers. And Nile Rodgers came in the following week looking like Nile Rodgers and saying, okay, well, Kevin tells me you're the man, and so we're going to start next week. And so in the middle of spring break, I had to inform the college that I wasn't coming back. And a humorous aside to that is that the dean of the School of Music, who was a friend of mine and is a very nice and talented man, or was, I don't know, is presumably, told me I was making the biggest mistake of my life.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
And I said, that may be the case, but you're going to be needing somebody for the classes next week because I have to go.
Isn't that just calm? Thank you very, very much indeed, Shelley Matemil, for the $5. I really appreciate it. It's going straight to charity. There's two things. There's how many times this happens to people without them realizing. Obviously, if you get a call like that, it's very obvious. But being ill that day, or missing the call, or it's the sliding doors moment. And there's definitely been 4 or 5 times in my life where I look back and my whole life is completely twisted in a certain direction due to something less obvious than that, just by bumping into someone and then kind of 6 months later something will happen or whatever. And also the karma of you working with Synclavier and them not giving you a job, but you're clearly there and you're building up, a lot of, you're doing it for a reason, if you see what I mean, and it came to fruition somehow. It's just a beautiful karmic kind of experience.
Even more bizarre was, in order to get this job in this interview, I grossly exaggerated my experience on the thing.
Okay. Maybe that's why they didn't give you a job.
So that gave me about 2 weeks to get good at it before we went out to Paramount Studios to make Coming to America, which is now a very celebrated movie. Gosh. And on which we were doing full orchestral mock-ups in early 1988, and not too many people were doing that. And I was doing it mostly between Synclavier and a rack of Kurzweil modules I was using that were current at the time. And that's kind of my trial by fire. I had asserted certain things that I was going to then have to be able to deliver.
Yeah.
And managed to deliver.
Yeah, you just need to take the opportunities when they arise and just work your butt off to make it work. Absolutely. I mean, I'm a great one of almost never turning anything down. Definitely in my younger, slightly more naive days, you just throw yourself into everything as long as you give it your absolute.
Well, I
all,
didn't
then,
have a choice. I mean,
yeah.
I wanted the job. I knew I could
That's
do it.
amazing. Absolutely amazing. Wow. So then you go from being let's see how it goes. We're working from tomorrow, obviously, into the integral part of the team in, I don't know, in fast, slow, or whatever that you're there basically. And have you been there ever since? Have you been dropping in?
Who would have thought?
Literally.
Who would have believed that possible? Here we are, 33 and a half years later, and I still work with the guy.
Ah.
How does that happen?
That is incredible. Well, one, you're a very, very nice guy, because generally,
Thank you.
33. I mean that honestly. You really are a nice guy, because you're incredibly modest. You're obviously incredibly talented as a keyboard player. But it goes without saying, a lot of people here don't know any of this history because you never choose to mention it. Maybe because you've never
come up, and I don't.
You've never been asked. Exactly. But to get on with anyone for 33 years and work with them is astonishing. Let alone someone in the music industry with the pressures and the the things that happen in that kind of an industry in the creative world when people are creative.
Well, and to piggyback on that point, it could have been anybody. It didn't have to be one of the world's most gifted musicians. It could have been some pretender who, has the emperor, who is an emperor with no clothes, who's marching down the street based on some reputation aspect that doesn't really derive from like massive piles of talent. And it so happened I lucked up on Nile Rodgers, who is an incredible musician, an incredible guitarist. And the first thing we're going to do is orchestral music, which is something I'm qualified to do because of my training in college.
Of course, that didn't click. Of course. And was that something he was comfortable with at that stage, or was that a relatively?
Oh yeah, no, he wrote that music. And a lot of what's in that film, almost all of it is hybrid synclavier and real orchestra. There is plenty of real orchestra in it, but there's also synclavier playing along with quite a bit of it, and it was a bizarre, and how much orchestral music have I done with him since then? Not that much. I mean, most of it was in the first 5 or 6 years of those 33. He's not known for that, and he's been given this amazing movie to do. We were also doing another movie at the time called Earth Girls Are Easy, which was directed by Julian Temple and was a little bit less popular than Coming to America, but still, it was all going on at the same time. And as usual, he's got a lot of projects going on.
Wow.
So that's how it started. We didn't get to pop records for another, 6 months.
Because to be fair, you don't necessarily associate film music with that operation. I mean, you see the hits, and you go, oh yeah, that's right, that's all associated with it, and all the rest of it. But yeah, the thought of making movies is a completely different thing. Incidentally, the Julian Temple stuff is incredible. I love his filmmaking, very earthy, and the way that he's done some really good stuff about kind of indie bands over here and sort of punk bands and stuff. But yeah. Just quickly looking over here, there was a question which was about gigs. I'll come back to it in a second. This is what happens when Mrs. Wiggly leaves the room. If you want to ask a question, repost it because it's whizzing off the top. And I've been so engrossed in chatting to Rich, I've just missed them all. I think there's an obvious answer to this from Will. They've been together and performing over all these years. Yeah, I think you have literally been.
No, there were periods in between. So when I got the job in 1988, he and Bernard hadn't been working together for some years. They had each gone off in around, 82 or 83 to pursue solo careers as producers. And they both produced some incredibly rich and music that is now ingrained in our culture and part of our lives. They were both very successful individually as producers. And they first came back together that I know of in the fall of 1989, around Niall's birthday time in September. And then at the end of 1989, in December, they began to make an album together that turned out to be called Chicism, that didn't get completed until 1992.
Wow.
But So there wasn't really a Chic between 1982, 3-ish and 1989-ish. They were each working independently, individually as producers.
Okay.
And based on their production history together, where it included things like Sister Sledge and Diana Ross and David, you know, all of that sort of thing. So they were each established as a producer, and then they went ahead and, Niall did a bunch of stuff that everybody knows, Madonna and all that, and Bernard did a bunch of stuff everybody knows, Power Station and Rod Stewart and things like that.
Gotcha. So that's what you're saying. What was your favourite gig? I'm just jump through a few questions at the moment to try and get through them.
Well, there are certain gigs that end up carrying meaning because of the way they relate to my life that have nothing to do with, our gigs in general are an absolute joy to perform. The audiences are fantastic. The songs get us over everywhere because the songs are great that we play, that he wrote. And so certain gigs have some personal meaning to me. One of them was getting to play Madison Square Garden for the first time, because when I was 14 years old, I got to play hockey there. So I've played both ice hockey and music in Madison Square Garden, and that actually has some meaning for me. Getting to play the Hollywood Bowl. I went to the Hollywood Bowl when I was a teenager and visiting my family in California, but getting to play there was a big deal. Getting to play the Royal Albert Hall was a big deal. Getting to play for gigantic numbers of people in Hyde Park in London was a big deal. But there have been gigs all over the world that I could point to that were special in some way, apart from those little personal connections to the legendary stature of the place you're in. We played an ancient Roman amphitheater in France, I believe, in Villette, I believe was the name of the place, holds 12,000 people. There's sometimes, or I played Hampton Court Palace like a month ago. And you look up, I like to joke that any gig where you can see turrets is a good gig. You get these views sometimes that you kind of like pinch me views. Yeah, playing Glastonbury in 2017, looking out at 250,000 people at Glastonbury, that was pinch me moments. The funny thing is that I'm not intimidated or scared by it.
That was going to be my question. That moment backstage. What I used to do, nowhere near in this level, but I used to play live keyboards for Boy George. I've done some big gigs, and I used to suffer terribly for 10-15 minutes before going on stage from stage right, and then it would all go and everything would be absolutely fine. But at that kind of level, does it make a difference in terms of nerves? The number of people in there?
No. In fact, you, me, and 3 of our friends in a living room gathered around the Steinway is going to make me more nervous than getting on stage in front of 250,000 people at Glastonbury with Chic, because those are people. There's a tremendous level of respect and trust in our band. And I feel utterly safe when I'm playing a Chic gig, which may be naive, but given some of the things that have happened. But no, for example, there was one time we were playing on a stage in Turkey, and the terrorist attack happened at the airport while we were on the stage.
Oh my word! Okay.
But it feels safe when you're doing it. It feels like the safest place in the world, and that you're wrapped in this sort of cocoon of love and trust. And then everybody
I thought you meant the relationship. The drummer would never drop you in it, or that kind of safety and faith.
No, we're good. We've always been good.
Oh, fantastic!
The band members in general. The
course.
vibe is almost always really, really great.
Thank you, Thorsten Tobias. That's really, really cool. Straight off to Great Ormond Street. I really appreciate
Somebody
it.
asked about using MIDI in pursuit of audio goals earlier. That nice gentleman from Sweden who made a nice contribution to your show. And I wanted to mention that one of the most significant influences on my engineering workflow in the last few years has been the acquisition of Console One by Softube, which I am absolutely in love with. And I use quite a bit. And the question specifically went to MIDI control, and this is sort of like MIDI control in a way. It's integrated a little bit differently, and I'm not actually assigning controller numbers individually, although you could. But I just like running that. I just really like having the hardware in front of me. So that
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I've just been experimenting with that actually, because you mentioned it, I think, on Sonic State a while ago. And I was thinking, okay,
I love it.
I'll check that out.
I love it.
So, I wanted to ask, really, kind of on behalf of the people that were watching. I mean, I've been lucky enough to sit in a studio and make a hit, but kind of only one or two. You've walked into many studios at the start of a session with blank tapes or blank discs or whatever, and gone through that whole process of coming out the other end with something you think, I think we've got something here, you know, and some of those have obviously turned out to be massive records. I don't know how many failed hits there have been coming out of that stable. Not that it matters in the slightest, but you obviously only hear the good stuff, but he's just a hit machine. That whole operation is a hit machine. Is there anything you've learned over those years in terms of that you can pass on to people watching who are going, well, I don't know how to make a tune, not make a hit, because hits don't really matter, but you know what I mean? How do I make a success out of this? You know, I've got a good song, or I haven't got a good song, or I don't know where to start. How could I ever even approach making a living or being a performer out of this? Because I know I should stick to my guns, but I don't feel so confident about everything, you know. Is there anything you've learned about the process over the last sort of 30 years that you've gone, do you know what? That's good. I need to, you know, I was right about that, was wrong about that. It's hard to put into words, but does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does. And it's a very broad question. And
yeah.
So there's a few ways I can answer it, a few things I can say. To me, a successful creative environment is the most important thing. And so the question kind of evolves for me into what goes into making a successful creative environment. And I think some of the things that go into it are everybody who's there is sympathetic and aware of their role in the bigger picture and comfortable in their lane, as we say. So, and if you're the producer, which I am only rarely, but I have been recently, your job is to basically make sure that everybody is feeling that way. And it's almost a spiritual thing as much as it has to do with anything specific in music. Because I suspect your question kind of prompts me to give specific musical and audio-based examples, but that's not really where I'm coming from with this question. I'm coming more from the spiritual aspect. So if you're working with a group of people in a recording studio, whether it's just you as the programmer, an artist, and an engineer and a producer, or if it's a full band, everybody has to know their space and feel comfortable in it. And that's the most important thing to me, because only under those conditions are people going to deliver something in excess of what they think they're capable of, which is the wondrous nature of what we do, is that when we can inspire somebody to be even better than they think they were when they walked in the door. That's very situational. I mean, that relates to who you're dealing with and what their needs are and where you can fit into making sure they're comfortable about those things and those doubts that they may have. Unless you wrap them, as I say, in a cocoon of love, you're not likely to get the best that they can offer. You're going to get some worried second-guessed version of some stuff that they're really unsure about. And you really have to try to nurture them into a direction where they feel that this is an idea worth pursuing, and it's an idea worth all of us pursuing together, you know. So I know that's really non-specific, and it doesn't relate to how you push a fader or how you like sit down to write a song. So anecdotally, I'm in the middle of finishing a production that I started in 2018 with an artist. And for the first time in my life, I went into a recording studio as a producer and a writer with nothing. I went there. I didn't want to presuppose. This was an artist from a far off place in the world, from Pakistan. And he was coming to make his first English language album with me. And I thought, no, this has to be written amongst us there in order to get anything truly unique and to make the most out of the cultural dissonance that we bring just because of who we are and where we're from. It has to be created there. And I have to create the right team and the right environment so that it will be created there. And fortunately, it worked out. And we wrote some really cool songs that I'm looking forward to finishing sometime soon. And I'm very, so as a producer, I felt like I had achieved my goal of creating a successful space. Because the creative space, the atmosphere, the environment, you can call it the context, you can call it anything you want. But that overriding vibe is what's going to make it successful or not, at least as far as a productive artistic endeavor. Now, successful out in the marketplace, other considerations, and you may or may not be trying to match a certain style that you perceive to be popular out there. That may or may not be part of your creative process. So when I talk about a successful artistic space, I'm just talking about in terms of realizing what's there, not how it plays out in the marketplace.
Amazing answer, and people in the chat saying exactly this. I mean, it's absolutely. But I mean, particularly with vocalists as well, it's often more about psychology than it is musicality.
Everybody,
half the time,
everybody.
Everybody. Yeah, if you don't feel comfortable, and if you don't, then you're not gonna be able to perform in any deep way. And that's so true. And it's actually true. You just touched at the end about saying, well, okay, man, we're trying to make a certain style of music that we may be under pressure from the label, or the artist may be wanting to do it because it's happening. You're not going to be able to do that either unless you're in the right space. I mean, it may be possible to do, but and the right space involves your heart being in it. So I've never heard anyone make a really good record in someone else's style unless they really believed in what they were doing. Do you know what I mean? It's like you can make an average one,
or in parody, or
exactly.
Weird Al, for example, or something. You're deliberately going after something, but bending it into some humor or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, Stock Aitken and Waterman over here in the 90s got a lot of flack, but they were totally into what they were doing and they loved it. They were really good at it, and they sold a lot, and it became, it's a commercial, but you couldn't go out and make a Stock Aitken and Waterman record unless you were Stock Aitken and Waterman. You could try, and it just ended up as a pale imitation, kind of half-hearted kind of thing. So no, really good. A great question. Thank you for that. A really good answer. Great question from Thorsten and Tobias as well, which is a method to overcome writer's block, or I guess just inspirational block in general, if you're not feeling it.
Walk away. I'm a great believer in walking away. I know that sounds horrible, and I don't mean it in terms of interpersonal relationships, but I mean as far as you're banging on something and it doesn't feel like it's coming. I don't want to sound like oblique strategies here, like where you pull a card from Brian Eno and he tells you to take a walk around the block. But it's kind of like that. And when I'm working and when I'm deeply in it, I try to take breaks and walk away, because the great thing about walking away is you get to come back to it with new ears. Sometimes beating on something is what's keeping you from getting past it. And sometimes all you have to do is go downstairs and make a sandwich, and you go, wait a minute, why don't I just do it like this? Yeah. So some people just keep beating on something for like the night and the day and the week and the whatever. I've known people who shall remain nameless who will work on a 16-bar group for 2 weeks. I can't work like that. I just can't stand working like that. It's not fun. And as I said earlier, I decided early in my life that I was going to keep music in a special place, and it was going to be fun, and it was going to be stuff that I, hopefully liked. Of course, being as a guy for hire, working with a major producer, you're going to work with all kinds of different people, and you're going to have to adapt. But, I got lost for a second there. But,
no, it's wonderful. Absolutely. I mean, walk away if you can't feel inspired.
Take a walk.
Away.
Make a sandwich. I have a soup going. I have a soup going downstairs right now.
It's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful to hear you speak.
Thank you.
We can go on all night, but we really ought to call a halt at some stage soon. If there's any other questions in the chat that I've missed, please just paste them again. Sorry if I've missed them. It's been whizzing past. I was personally interested in a brief summary of the process that you guys go to, if you're happy to share it. So artist comes along, has recorded demos, signed to a label or whatever. You get the production. I guess Niall's listened to it and gone, yeah, I believe in this, I can do something with it. What is the process that happens from there till the finish of the recording, in a typical way, if there is a typical way?
Well, it reminds me of the question. I met an ice sculptor once who had just done the Statue of Liberty in a giant block of ice. And my friend, the mentor that I mentioned earlier, asked him, how do you do that? And he said, it's easy. You just chip away everything that's not the Statue of Liberty. So I kind of feel the same way about music. It's easy. You just chip away everything that's not that song.
Work, yeah.
I'm a great believer. Again, we're going to get into this whole sort of zone of semi-existential thinking, but I'm a great believer in letting the music tell you what it needs, and that if you open your heart and open yourself up and listen, the music will tell you what it needs. And I know that sounds very spiritual and mystical and shit, but it's just how I view it. Wow. And that's how I work. And when the music ain't telling me anything, I get up and take a break, like I just said. So because it will. You just have to clear yourself to get there, but it'll still come through. What it needs.
And in terms of the kind of physical process, I mean, would you, if you're working with Niall, say, would you spend a week or two jamming away with the artist? I suppose it's different for everyone.
Very rarely does that happen. First of all, it depends on my role in the session, and my role in the session has been different throughout the entire history. From session to session, I may play different roles. Sometimes I may be integral to the music creation process. Yep. Like more so in the beginning than I am these days, because right now there's somebody else who does what is substantially used to be my job with him and does the day-to-day productions. But even within that, sometimes I'm the synclavier operator, sometimes I'm the recording engineer, sometimes I'm the keyboardist, sometimes I'm all of those things at the same time. There were a period of years where I was all of those things at the same time a lot. Like I like to say that when I got hired, I had one job, and within like 12 years, I had 5 jobs, and now I'm back to having one job again. Right. It's just a different job than the one I started with. So I know it's a very unspecific answer, and I'd like to tell you that there's one particular method that gets used, but it's different from artist to artist. So on an album by album basis, I can describe. I described to you "Jump They Say" earlier, for example.
But there's no formula. It's
well, that one had live basic tracks with a band across a whole bunch of songs. That happened a bunch of times over the years, but not every time. Sometimes, like a Chic basic, would quite often be just Niall Bernard and the drummer. In the case of Chicism, it was Sonny Emery. That's how those Chic records were created. And in Chic music, specific to Chic music, I like to say that the guitar, bass, and drums are the sun, and every other part in the production is the planets.
Right.
And the whole thing has to come from that guitar, bass, drum interaction as the core of what the music is going to be. That's what makes it special. That's why David Lee Roth referred to them as the Led Zeppelin of funk. Yeah. Because that's how that music comes about. And other things, like for Bowie's album, it was a full studio full of guys, me and Philippe Sace, each with keyboard rigs, and Niall playing guitar and a bass and drums, and Bowie in a vocal booth. Just brilliant. So, and then Vaughan Brothers happened differently than that when we did Stevie Ray and Jimmy Vaughan and all of that. So they all, again, it's totally situational, and you do what the music tells you to do.
And be true to yourself, and let the music guide
tell you what to do. Because it will, if you listen.
Wow, awesome, thank you. Let's pull out a few questions that have popped up. You've made favorite one you've done.
It's the one I'm trying to finish now. I know that's a trite thing to say. I have tremendous affection for all of the projects I've described. The B-52s were wonderful. Strange Folk, who practically none of you have ever heard, are wonderful. Tina Arena was wonderful. Michael Bolton was wonderful. I mean, I just, working with Bob Dylan was magical. Working, like where Eric Clapton was incredible. Where do I stop? Diana Ross.
I mean,
I spent 10 days recording Diana Ross singing Supreme's hits.
I gotta
Does
put this back on the
life
bottom
get
just
much
a little
better
bit.
than that?
Just amazing. Aaron Courts at Space Cat, who make awesome hardware products, delays, and Dubstar delay that he's working on at the moment. Do you ever? Well, it says, do you want to improvise over tried and tested songs on stage? I'd actually say, do you? Is there much improvisation going on? Probably not in the big arena gigs, but is
In
there
the
a bit
Chic
of
shows,
movement?
no. That has to do also with my lane and what I'm there to do as a member of Chic. So, first of all, to Space Cat's question, sure. I mean, it depends on where the stage is. Not at Glastonbury in front of 250,000 people, but if we're down in a bar in Georgetown, Connecticut, and we're all playing the blues, I'm improvising all night long. So it depends on the gig and the presentation you're after. In the case of Chic, it's a very, very highly arranged situation where the set is of a fixed length and we know how the arrangements are going to go. Right. And in particular, my chair is about reproducing parts consistently, reliably, in time, and with feeling, so that the people who make the energy go, which is mostly the guitar, bass, drums, and vocals, have that comfort zone covered so that they can then go off and do their thing. That's how Chic works, and that's what that chair is for. So that's what I do, and there's very little improvisation in there are parts that I play that came out of things I improvised on gigs along the way that then become parts because I like them. Mm-hmm. And I might play them some nights and not play them other nights. None of them are integral to the performance of the parts that make the song go. But I'm generally not in an improvisatory chair in Chic. Whereas other gigs I've played in the past and other kinds of gigs that I could play now, I might be. So I'm not against it, but as it relates to my position in Chic, that just doesn't happen.
Interesting. Are you out playing much outside of Chic live? Obviously with COVID, I guess it's all been knocked on the head really. But
No, I do. I've done little sit-in kind of things. It's funny because I've been with the same musical organization for 30 plus years. When I moved up here in 2001, it took me like decades to get to know the local musicians because I'm just not really that much of a club goer anyway. Right. And so people would go, well, do you know this guy? He lives right near you. And I'd go, no, I've never met him and I've never heard him play. So now I know more people around here and I've sat in with some of them and I do enjoy going to their shows and seeing what they do. And I've sort of become friends with people in the local community to some extent, but probably not to the extent that they're friends with each other because that's their gig world. Yeah. So they know everybody much more deeply than me. Whereas I'm just now this guy who comes from this other band that people know about. And so that gives me some gravitas, I guess, when I walk in. But ultimately, it turns out to be some kind of sitting in situation. And sometimes I do that, and it's fun. Cool. It reminds me of the old days, kind of.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much. I guess the final question should really be the future. Obviously we could spend another 2 hours on that one, but no, just in general, what's coming up? Obviously you're finishing this album, I hope. This
album that I was producing, with my friend from Pakistan. I need to finish that this year if I can. I don't know what's coming up. I mean, I know what people say might be coming up, but we live in a world right now that's very much in flux, as we all know. And we've just done two-week runs, the second half of August and the second half of September through the UK with Chic, touring at a furious pace and playing for wonderful, gigantic, packed audiences full of loving people. And there was a whole surreal, bizarre aspect to it because you have to be tested before you come. You have to be tested after you arrive. We have antigen tests we administer to ourselves every single day to monitor. It's got to be 25 or 30 people all have to test negative for like weeks. And it's a challenge.
Yeah, of course. Wow.
It's a challenge to do. And it's a challenge that's not usually part of the touring thing. And it doesn't really dampen the joy we feel at playing the shows, but it does add some additional pressure with regards to any social commitments you may have, or
Yeah.
people you may have otherwise wanted to see while you were there, like you and me meeting up, Tom. And it's just not possible right now because the cost benefit rate thing doesn't work out. You got to
Sure.
basically err on the side of safety so you can continue to do the job. And so I've kind of gone back in my personal behavior to like last summer before vaccine. I hardly socialize with anybody because I'm afraid that if I get it, then I'm going to have to miss work. So,
Is there like an understudy, or would that just kill it if somebody as important as you?
gosh, I hope not. I don't think there is, but they'd be flexible. And if somebody wasn't able to come, we would find somebody to sub and do that. I'm sure it's not. I don't think they really want to let one person take down the
even
whole,
so. I mean,
the
wow.
whole tower
Yeah.
of House of Cards. So as far as this future goes for us, the expectation is that we're going to resume sort of 2019 when we resume in 2022. As far as us, what we were doing at that time was a lot of major American arena tours, opening for other major artists who are appropriate for us to be with. And I expect if things go well next year, we'll resume doing some of that. We also have this wonderful career in the UK and in Europe where we get to headline like major venues and do very well, and they're very well received there. So I expect that in between our continued push to make America a revitalized market for these songs, we will be coming back over there to do, our big Hallelujah gigs for the wonderful people there who we love and who love us. And so in vague terms, that's sort of what I expect. But whether or not that's actually going to play out and how this whole disease situation is going to play out still remains to be seen.
I do hope so. The gigs that you've just done recently, were they last minute? Were they planned in advance and it just happened to coincide with
it? Was
it?
very well planned. Including, I don't know if you saw this, the Global Citizen broadcast.
Yes, I did. I did.
Yeah.
And it was just, we were watching it with Luna May was watching. I mean, it was incredible. In fact, that's right. I was watching it with Mrs. Wiggly, and I said, "Yeah, see, that's him. That's him. He's coming on." You were at the back of the stage.
There he is.
The house. Really? It was, but it was a brilliantly organised thing, and to do that with all this stuff going on, I mean, just incredible. But I mean, I presume it's like these gigs are getting planned kind of a year in advance for the big stuff, at least. I would imagine for the.
Well, yeah, you're always planning for it as though it's going to happen. And I'm not privy to those negotiations. I hear like secondhand or whatever, or, little notices that we're hoping to, resume touring with this person in these situations by then, but you never know. And I'm thankful for every single opportunity that I've had and every one that I get. And I don't take anything for granted, and I don't presume to know what's going to happen in this world right now.
Amazing. I think we've got one last little and finally from Kent's Bomb. Did Rich mention about how I tried to poison him? Says
No,
Kent's
I didn't. And I don't think anybody needs to.
Okay, and finally.
Let's just say that Kent likes his hamburgers a little more rare than I do.
Oh gosh. Oh, no. All right, listen, thank you. Honestly, thank you so much. What an amazing show. I mean, we've gone,
thank you.
It's the longest show we've done. We've had the most people watching. It's the most positivity I think I've ever seen in the chat. It's always positive, but genuinely knock people out. I mean, it shows that not so many people know about your history and what you've done and how amazing you are, which is, I thought it was only me. It's just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And thank you for your insight and humility and everything. Just absolutely wonderful. What can I say? It's been an absolute pleasure.
Tom, it's a pleasure to know you. I'm really honored to be on your show. I had a great time. You have a lovely family. This is what it's about, man. It's about people. It's about us, and we will meet up. And there's a bunch of our friends from Sonic Talk that will meet up. There's a whole new crop of us guys who haven't yet congealed in the way that the original crop have in person, and that's bound to happen and due to happen, and I can't wait.
Well, let's hope that's next year. Thank you very, very much indeed. All the best for the future. I really hope that you can get out there gigging, because the amount of gigs, the number of people on my Facebook feed posting pictures saying, I've just off to see Chic, or I saw Chic last night, was incredible. It was just so positive. And I mean, just seeing people going out to gigs was like, oh, I remember what that used to be like. But they were all going to see you, so it was just colossal size gigs. So brilliant. Anyway, thank you very much, everyone in the chat. You've been amazing. People who've donated money is going to go straight to Great Ormond Street Hospital. Go to mrwiggly.co.uk/live if you just want to give some money to Great Ormond Street, which is Lula May's charity, if you missed it. Thank you to anyone who's listening on repeat. I hope I kind of spoke most of the questions as they appeared on the screen, so you actually know what we were talking about most of the time. Also, the op drums from Left that we talked about earlier, which is a donate to use these really good drum samples, mrwiggly.co.uk/op drums. That's OP drums, all in lowercase, just to check those out if you want to. Really good kick and snare that are operators based on Ableton, if you want to give that a go. And I think that's basically it. I think we're all done. So thank you very, very much indeed, everybody. See you here same time next week, 7 p.m. for another exciting show. Thanks very much. See you then. I've got to find the right button now. Here we go. Bye.
Urbanist connect so with the earth pipe. Link up the harmonize, bless the termite. But beyond obsolete blessings, a birthright. To live a life which a lot for me no short. Worldwide, cosmic love energy, I go herbicide free, organically, me say worthwhile. Watch the way one of you take term points in terms of definitions and some termites. Yes, I check the eye. One side is defined by one side the other. I.e. I am an ideas man. I assign too much of the qualities of my child. Who's way back talking like there's two of me? One is a construct, one is a creativity. The supreme one, all encompassing information in and of itself, most definitely. Another life infinitely, most life infinitely. Beyond the scripture, niceness can be. Blessed be. I continually, Mr. Pick up a being, that's the infinity, yes.